Konnichiwa! Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Nihongo Master podcast. It's Azra, your host, and this week's Study Saturday is going back to the basics of conjugation, conjugating the types of verbs. Now you might be thinking, why haven't you covered it before? To be honest, I'm thinking the same too. For some reason, I just assumed everyone knew it already. But of course, that's not the case. It's just been so long since I first started learning the conjugations for verbs that it slipped my mind how important it is. Let me tell you, it's extremely important. Without it, you're limiting yourself to less than a quarter of all types of Japanese sentences. Basically, it's quite literally the root of any type of conjugation. Now, I'll stop going on and on about how important verb conjugations are and actually get into showing you how to conjugate them, shall we? Now, in any language, some sentences require a verb. Verbs are action words like to see or to write or to do. There's not much categorization in English when it comes to verbs and their conjugation. But in Japanese, it all boils down to two categories, ru verbs and u verbs. Ru verbs, known as ichidan verbs, are verbs that end with ru. Examples are miru, to see, and taberu, to eat. U verbs, known as godan verbs, are verbs that end with u. Examples are kaku, to write, and hanasu, to speak. Bear in mind that there are u verbs that also end with ru, like shiru, to know, but they fall under the u category. There is also a category for irregular verbs, and that category only has two, suru, to do, and kuru, to come. Depending on the category the verb is in, the conjugation is different. So we're not going to go over the grammatical rules. The stem form is a type of Japanese verb form that's often used to make other types of conjugation. It's also known as the mas form. Just like how in English, the word see can become see or saw or seen, Japanese words rely on conjugation from the stem form. For ru verbs, you can get the stem form by just taking away the ru. For example, miru becomes mi. Taberu becomes tabe. For u verbs, the stem form is achieved by taking the u sound out and switching it with i. For example, kaku becomes kaki. Hanasu becomes hanashi. The irregular verbs don't have a set of rules to follow. You just have to memorize their conjugation. Suru becomes shi, and kuru becomes ki. You still with me, guys? Great. Stem form is used in a lot of types of conjugation, like tai, to say I want, which we covered in Season 2, Episode 10. Now, the next and last category we'll look at is negation. We actually used this form of conjugation in our previous study Saturday, where we looked at how to say don't do something. Tune in to Season 9, Episode 2 for that after this. Anyway, ru and u verbs negate differently, and it's also slightly different from the stem form. For ru verbs, it's actually straightforward. You take the ru out and replace it with nai for informal, or masen for formal. Miru becomes minai or mimasen. Taberu becomes tabenai or tabemasen. Now, it's the u verbs that's tricky. You have to take the u sound out and replace it with a. Then add nai. Kaku becomes kakanai. Hanasu becomes hanasanai. That's for the informal. For the formal, you actually use the stem form and then add masen. So you change the u sound to i, then add masen. Kaku becomes kakimasen. Hanasu becomes hanashimasen. Okay, so for the irregular verbs, suru becomes shinai or shimasen. Kuru becomes konai or kimasen. Oh, and there's one exception to the negation, and that's the u verb aru. Its negation becomes nai for informal, whereas it follows the same format for formal. Arimasen. Phew, that's a toughie. It's okay if it's confusing at first. Just re-listen to the parts you're not clear of and only move forward when you're confident. But for now, let's recap, shall we? Japanese verbs are categorized into two categories, ru verbs and u verbs. Depending on which category they are in, it affects the conjugation. There are two irregular verbs that don't follow any formats, suru and kuru. Okay, here comes the fun part. Some role-playing scenarios. We often have two example situations that use the new conjugation and grammar we just learned to get ourselves accustomed to it. The more you hear it being used and use it yourself, the better you get at it. So our first role-playing scenario will be a simple yet fun conversation between two friends, Akari and Miyu, about their plans for the New Year's. Miyu, お正月は何するの？出身に帰らないので、渋谷で行こうかもしれない。そっか、楽しそう。私は長野に行く。家族と一緒に旅行するのは初めてだよ。うわ、いいんじゃん。彼氏は？彼も行くの？行かない。彼はね、お正月には働かなきゃ。え、本当？するいだ。なんでかな。とにかく、みゆの旅行のために全てを持っているの？あ、そうだ。聞きたいことがある。借りるジャケットはあるか？あと、手袋？あ、長野天気のために？ないかも。ごめん。大丈夫？買うよ。明日買い物しない？ Now, let's have a listen at the English translation. Miyu, what are you doing on New Year's? I'm not going back to my hometown. Maybe I'm going to Shibuya. Really? Sounds fun. I'm going to Nagano. It's the first time I'm going on a trip with my family. Wow, that's great. How about your boyfriend? Is he going too? He's not going. He has to work on New Year's. Eh? Really? That's unfair. I wonder why. Anyway, do you have everything for your trip? Ah, that's right. There's something I want to ask you. Do you have a jacket I can borrow? Ah, and also gloves? For Nagano weather? I don't think so. Sorry. It's okay. I'll buy. Let's go shopping tomorrow? Okay, let's have another role-playing scenario. This time, we won't have the English translation, but instead a short quiz. So listen properly, guys. This next one is between classmates Tanaka and Sara, talking about their morning routine.
うわあ、お腹がついた。ねえ、サラちゃん、何か食べるものあるの？
ない。ごめんなさい。なんで今お腹がついたの？朝ごはんをいつも食べないか？
僕の両親の両方とも働いているから、いつも急いでいる。だから朝に食事のする時間がない。
そうか。残念だね、田中くん。朝ごはんは大事な食事と思うよ。
サラちゃんは朝ごはんは毎日食べるか？
毎日食べないけど、学校に行くときだけ食べる。お弁当を持ってくる。
わあ、すごいだ。僕は昼食にいつもマックを食べる。でも健康になりたいので運動するのが好きだ。サラちゃんは運動するの？
運動しない。でも時々プールに行く。Now we have 3 quiz questions for you to challenge yourself with. First question. Why doesn't Tanaka eat in the morning? Second question. How about Sarah? Does she eat in the morning? Third question. What does Tanaka do that Sarah doesn't? Answer check. The first question's answer is, he doesn't eat in the morning because there's no time. Both his parents are working and are always rushing. The second question's answer is, she eats in the morning only when she goes to school. The third question's answer is, Tanaka works out, but Sarah doesn't. Let's wrap it up with a quick vocab recap. Ichidan, ru verbs. Godan, u verbs. Miru, to see. Taberu, to eat. Kaku, to write. Hanasu, to speak. Shiru, to know. Suru, to do. Kuru, to come. Aru, there is. Or shogatsu, New Year's. Shushin, hometown. Iku, to go. Tanoshii, fun. Kazoku, family. Ryoko, trip. Hajimete, first time. Zurui, unfair. Subete, all. Motsu, to have. Kariru, to borrow. Tebukuro, gloves. Kao, to buy. Kaimono suru, to go shopping. Ashita, tomorrow. Onaka ga tsuku, to be hungry. Asagohan, morning meal or breakfast. Ryoshin, parents. Ryoho, both. Hataraku, to work. Isogu, to hurry. Shokuji, meal. Daiji, important. Zannen, that's a shame. Mainichi, every day. Gakko, school. Toki, time. Obento, packed meal. Motte kuru, to bring. Chushoku, lunch. Kenkou ni naru, to become healthy. Undo suru, to work out. Uru, pull. Tokidoki, sometimes. So there you have it, the basics of conjugating Japanese verbs. It's the foundation of all types of verb conjugation. The next step up you should take is learning the te form, which is another crucial type of Japanese verb conjugation. We have an episode for that, Season 4, Episode 13. Head over there for everything you need to know about the te form. But don't you think verb conjugations are fun? I had a headache when I first started learning, but I love working my brain, mentally conjugating it all the time. Are you like me? Tell us your thoughts by commenting on social media platforms. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, if you're interested in similar bite-sized grammar pointers, head over to Nihongo Master blog for more. And if you're keen on picking up some more Japanese for yourself, pop onto our official website, nihongomaster.com, to learn more about our interactive online learning system. At Nihongo Master, we offer efficient Japanese lessons that are quick, easy, and fun for Japanese language learners of all levels, from beginners to advanced. Our smart tools will assist you in areas where you need a bit of a push and congratulate you on the ones you aced. Get a subscription today and get a head start on your Nihongo journey with Nihongo Master. And thank you so much for listening in. Join me next time where I'll be looking at another interesting part of the Japanese language. Mata ne!